Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The polls keep shifting to Democrat. The polls keep shifting to Biden. I'm sure you've seen it all over Twitter. Donald Trump is done. He's unelectable. Bidenomics is working. It's the big Biden boost that he was expecting, but never came after the failed withdrawal of Afghanistan. The amount of people I've seen link one Yahoo poll, even Ron DeSantis shills doing the same thing, it's over. Donald Trump is done because of literally one poll. Then the Ron DeSantis shills chiming in, trying to hit us with an I told you so angle. We told you Donald Trump was unelectable. Only Ron DeSantis can win. Independents hate Donald Trump. They all keep linking the same poll. It's literally like 2 or 3 polls that have been released from all of the most left-wing pollsters you could imagine. The most inaccurate garbage, instantly throw in the trash can polls. They were cheering and cheering. They were cheering all over Twitter, and all of a sudden, it's already shifted. I guess the Bidenomics honeymoon is over already. Donald Trump is back on top. Let's delve into the polls, let's do some polling analysis, and see where things are really at instead of buying into the doom and gloom nonsense. My perspective remains there's a lot to work with. It's just about getting the job done. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's take a look at the RCP average. Not gonna lie, Biden had a little bit of a run here. Trump has been pretty much dominating the polls over the last however many months. I mean, let's just scroll over the last, I think this is a 1.5 year polling data, if I'm not mistaken. As you can see, it's pretty much a Trump victory across the board. There's little moments where Biden had a little bit of a bump, sure, but it always seems to come right back to Trump. That's exactly where we're at right now. The Morning Consult poll, Yahoo News, and Quinnipiac poll, showing Joe Biden with a commanding lead, didn't exactly last very long. The most recent Harvard-Harris poll showing a Trump +5 lead, and the most recent Harris-X/The Messenger poll showing a Trump +4. But more importantly, if we delve into the details of that poll, the key thesis behind the Ron DeSantis shill kind of gets disproven. The final result, and by the way, this is with registered voters, so it's a pretty wide-casted net, shows Trump at 46%, Biden at 42%, and an even larger, more commanding victory from Donald Trump when isolated directly with independents. By the way, that's a net 4 positive swing towards Trump from the previous poll, which was at a dead tie at 44-44. I'm simply not buying into the narrative. If we actually isolate down to key issues and the most important issues that really get people mobilized to head to the polls, the idea that Joe Biden is in a good place, that argument simply falls flat. Even as President Joe Biden touts his success of Bidenomics, more Americans expect the economy to get worse over the next year than think it will improve. Nearly half see a weaker economy ahead. Biden trying to take credit because of headline inflation going down obviously isn't going well with normal people who still are struggling. Not to mention, most people see the inflation crisis to begin with as a direct result of his reckless spending, and on top of that, core inflation is still extremely high. The cost of actual necessities, which is what the majority of the American people see as actual inflation, well, those prices remain significantly elevated. Joe Biden might have scored a slight short-lived victory because the stock market pumped, but if you ask me, it's simply not enough, especially if you consider Democrat rhetoric at the time where Donald Trump's economy was booming and we were seeing stock market high after stock market high. They always downplayed Donald Trump's economic success, claiming the stock market doesn't show the whole picture for regular folk. The stock market only matters to rich people, they would claim. Now here they are celebrating a stock market pump in an environment where their rhetoric or their talking point to go after Donald Trump at the time is much more relevant today. The stock market rising does nothing for people whose cost of living has essentially doubled. People's mortgage payments are up by the thousands, thanks to the reckless spending. I think the economy is going to be at the forefront here the next election, and Joe's simply not winning. Here's a question from the Harvard-Harris survey. Who do you think better understands the economic problems that people in this country are having? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Trump's leading by 10 points, and leading by 11 points on the question of who had better economic policies as president. It's too early to be jumping to any conclusions based on the polling data that's releasing. It's one poll, it's a series of polls. At the end of the day, it's early polling, and the Republican primary hasn't even really started. So Republican voters and right-leaning independents haven't really been forced to sign on yet. I think there's still a lot of copium surrounding the idea of challenging Donald Trump. Well, at some point, at least if things remain moving forward as they currently stand, there's not going to be a choice. And the reality is here that both candidates in a way are unfavorable. I mean, obviously even Democrats don't like piss-pants Biden, Biden, Trump has a favorability issue. He always has. We could chalk it up to the media constantly attacking him. We could chalk it up to his rougher edges, whatever it is. The fact is, both candidates have their likability issues. And so a lot of people, I think, are reluctant, especially independents, this early on to definitively say, well, yeah, I'll vote for that guy, when there's other options that they may personally prefer. That's the way that it works. Well, once the Republican primary process is done, and it's likely that Donald Trump is the candidate, people are going to have to line up behind him because the other choice is a corrupt dementia patient. I think that's clearly going to have an effect. From my perspective, I mean, I'm not going to look at one poll and say, oh, Donald Trump's winning. It's pretty much set in stone. No, there's a lot of factors. Obviously, we know that, especially on the day of factors. But I'd say all the people who are doom and glooming, all the people who say that Donald Trump is unelectable, the fact that he's leading in most of the polling data this early on before the Republican primary is even finished doesn't seem like a bad thing. Trump's losing by 4 points in a Yahoo News poll.
What am I gonna do?
Oh, scary. Oh, shiver my timbers. Shut up, man.
What are we ever gonna do? I don't know. I'm not buying that angle. I think right now this is a pretty solid position to be in. There's a lot to build on. There's a lot to attack and a lot to build a campaign on. Not only directly going after Creepy Joe with all the scandals, all the corruption, all the legitimate smoking gun evidence, but on policy as well. The last 2.5 years, well, really it's been almost 3 years, has been disastrous failure back to back to back. Democrat shills want to say, oh, well, the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act. It's not the big win that they market it as. Every president ends up passing legislation through Congress. In fact, it has nothing to do with him. It's literally just Congress doing Congress things. On the Joe Biden front, he's been an utter disaster, especially on foreign policy. The world is less safe. The world is in deeper chaos than ever before. The American dollar is losing value and losing reputation across the globe. People are simply not better off now than they were previous, and you could build a major campaign on that notion, especially if you were the previous guy. If everyone was thriving under you, and now everything's gone to you-know-what under this guy, it's a pretty decent campaign shtick, if you ask me. Not to mention the whole martyr element, as Trump continues to face banana republic-style persecution. I think there's a lot there. I think Trump's in a pretty decent spot, and I've yet to see evidence suggesting that Ron DeSantis performs better against Joe Biden or with independents. I mean, just look at the averages. Ron DeSantis performs worse across the board than Donald Trump does in every single poll except for maybe a couple. All that to say, stop the doom and gloom, push forward, and most importantly, get serious. The only thing that's standing between Donald Trump and the White House, in my opinion, is campaign performance. As long as he can perform, as long as he can draw those crowds, and most importantly, draw the working class to the polls, and really resonate, really connect, and really make a point, and be authentic in what he's doing, I think the crisis of a second Biden term can easily be avoided. Anyways, haven't done polling analysis in a while. That's basically what's on my mind. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.